Hi there, all to new friends, welcome back. I have a stash of embroidery thread from Embroidery kits. In this card making tutorial, I'll show you two of my favorite Altenew dyes to make great use of those extra strands. These are stunning card projects for any embroidery skill level. For me, the best overall die for cross-stitching is the Pegboard canvas cover die. This cover die cuts out a full A2 card front and a grid of 30 by 40 squares. I took this into account when picking out the colors for my card front. I have 3 values of 6 color hues. For my card design, I'll have 3 rows of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. What I love about this cover die is the die cut holes are large enough to accommodate 6 strands of embroidery floss and the needle, so I don't have to force the needle and thread through the paper. The size needle I'm using is a 22 gauge, and I'm also using a needle threader. In any of my embroidery thread projects or any yarn-based project, the thing I absolutely dread is weaving in my ends. To make things simpler for me, I'm using the Altenew Ultra Sticky double-sided tape in 1/4 inch so that I can lay down my thread to a sticky surface without weaving in the ends. I'll lay down the adhesive where my embroidery floss will start and end on the back of the die-cut cardstock. So that's what I'm showing here is I'm letting the very end of the floss lay on top of the exposed adhesive. Then I can start my first row of stitches. If you're a beginner, the key to consistently beautiful stitches is to make your X's the same throughout your project. So if you start your X at the top left down to the bottom right of your square, then make sure you cross the stitch at the top right down to the bottom left throughout your project. But we will work in rows half crosses first, so you'll see I'm making a consistent row of half stitches starting at the top left to the bottom right. The back of my work is a series of vertical parallel lines. This is one of the telltale signs of consistent stitches. I'll finish this row of colors with the other half of the cross stitch. To complete the X, I'll start at the top right of my grid and work the thread to the bottom left, crossing over my previous stitch. I'll make my way all the way back to the beginning of the row, and if you did your row correctly, you'll have a series of vertical parallel lines on the back of your work. Again, to avoid weaving in ends, I'll lay the end of my thread on top of the exposed adhesive and cut off the excess. To avoid adding yarn bulk to one side of my project, I'm alternating sides where I start and end my thread. So for this second strand of embroidery floss, I need to keep my X's consistent. Since I'm not starting on the left side of my project, I'll need to adjust how I make my X's. I'll need to work on the bottom right to the top left for the first row of this first half of the cross. Then when I come back to finish the X, I'll go from the bottom left to the top right. These are just little ways to make your embroidered card project a little bit more refined, regardless of your skill. To recap, that means I'll do all my odd rows from left to right, and then all my even rows from right to left, following their respective X pattern so that all my X's look the same throughout my project. Once I get to the end of my third purple embroidery floss, I'll lay down the cut edge of the floss on the exposed double-sided adhesive. And you'll see the back of my work is a series of vertical parallel lines, just as it should be. I'll use a liquid adhesive to apply glue to the thick edge of the cardstock to adhere the cross-stitched panel to my folded note card base. To keep things simple, I'll add a die-cut Hugs sentiment from Versatile Greetings die set to the center of the rainbow stitched background. I love this card because I can use those scrap strands of embroidery floss that I've been holding on to and make these fun meditative backgrounds. This next card uses 6 strands of embroidery floss and the Mix and Match Frames die set. The largest die in this set cuts a panel slightly smaller than an A2 card front. This embroidered project is great if you don't have a needle or needle threader. The finished die cut holes are 27 by 35. Again, to avoid weaving in the ends or fussing around with hiding ends, I'm using the same double-sided adhesive to hold down the ends of my embroidery floss. I'm picking random holes along the longer end of the die-cut cardstock to start and end the embroidery floss. This project is great for those scrap strands that are a little bit more than 4 inches. To keep this card truly random appearing, I'll work the long edges of the card one strand at a time from each color family, grouping the hues together in rainbow order. So I'll start at the reds, work down to purple, then fill in the card with strands of color. What helped me in getting a consistent color distribution was letting the color families overlap. I worked up and down the card panel in single strands from each color family, instead of working in just the reds, just the oranges, etc. Once I've filled all the holes of the long edge of my cardstock, I'll finish this card with another simple die-cut sentiment. I figured the one from Wonderfully Made would be fitting for this embroidered labor of love. I stacked 5 layers of this die-cut sentiment. And then finally, I foam mounted the embroidered panel to my folded note card base. Then using a strong enamel-based adhesive, I centered my die-cut sentiment on top of the embroidered panel. My series encourages you to shop your existing all-to-new stash and rekindle their love with newer releases. Perfect Pairings with Jaycee airs on the all-to-new channel every second and fourth Sunday of the month. Please make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Perfect Pairing episode with me, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey there, Lydia here. I really do hope that you've just enjoyed the video. If so, please subscribe to the All-to-New YouTube channel. Also, turn on the notification bell so you can get your daily dose of crafty techniques and tutorials just like this. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.